saying that, Russia will have a new president. And we heard reports, of course, that Wagner was waging some sort of insurrection, as my colleague Sean Brycebees rightly said in that clip. So what exactly was the plan here?
Well, maybe your question would be, what exactly was the trigger? Because I don't think Evgeny Prigozhin necessarily had a plan. And for me, there's 2 or 5 possibilities that could have triggered the offensive towards Moscow by the Wagner group. The one possibility is obviously the possibility of a personal discord between Evgeny Prigozhin as the army chief of Wagner and the Minister of Defense, Sergei Shoigu, the Russian Minister of Defense,
right,
in terms of how this war must be executed. The second possibility, in my view, is centered around the question of military contracts gone wrong. In other words, them not agreeing on the kind of payments that Wagner must receive.
Yeah.
The third possibility, in my view, could be political ambitions on the part of the Wagner boss, Evgeny Prigozhin, because he might have misread the international situation to suggest that there was a total isolation of Moscow, and therefore an opening for him and a climate of acceptance to march towards the capital and possibly storm the Kremlin and overthrow the Putin regime. For me, I think that's a strong
what seems very interesting to me, sorry to interrupt you, but it does seem interesting that the West seems to be very happy to send out anyone who has the balls to try and fight Putin and give their sort of blessings. But the moment that there's trouble, their support is kind of limited. I mean, we're seeing a backtrack from the Wagner group, and as you say, it might have been very politically orientated in terms of him wanting to have some sort of political leverage going forward. How do you read this sort of what I read really as backtracking? Is it a case of he realizes that he might have misstepped, underestimated the Russian president, and also they're saying that he might actually just at this point be a person who's going to be killed essentially.
Well, I think 2 things arise from that question. Firstly, I was about to say in the possibilities, you therefore also cannot rule out the possibility of a US hand in the entire battle.
Right.
You need to know that the Russian war against Ukraine is actually a proxy war of fought against, or rather fought on the backdrop of a broader international question, which is the issue of unipolarity versus multipolarity, which obviously then threatens US hegemony. And therefore the US would do anything to create a distraction, because whatever happens as an outcome of that war would determine the directionality of who controls the world at the end of the day, and whether we will move swiftly into a multipolar world where the US ceases to dominate. And for me, the question of the Wagner distraction is indeed just, in my view, can be dismissed as an adventurous distraction, fueled obviously by Wagner's money interests. And I agree with you that his withdrawal to Belarus will definitely liquidate him. I see him actually going further than Belarus, trying to find an exit plan, because he will definitely be maimed if he stays there forever, because he would be under Russian intelligence supervision there when he's much closer. And if you know, Lukashenko is an ally of Putin. Therefore, you want to run away, and I suspect he will come and run to our continent, where he has an infrastructure based on his previous military expeditions.
Is possible, Tato, that this might have, caused a situation where, well, clearly this has backfired, but it also just kind of showed the might of Putin and his generals. I mean, we hear of, a private army driving, through Moscow, and that isn't even, the official military. He didn't even have to take out the big boys. He, he took out just his private, his own personal kind of army, and that in itself just shows, his prowess when it comes to war and the game of war at the end of the day. Has this got the potential of essentially, scaring even further those who might have wanted to challenge the Putin administration going forward?
Well, there are analysts who obviously are parochial who are saying actually this may be interpreted as a weakness on the part of the Putin regime. But if you're talking a display of muscle, he did not even go there. But everybody knows, including the US, that when you're talking about the Russian army, you're talking about the fifth largest army in the world. You're talking about the nuclear war here. You're talking virtually about the one of only 3 armies in the world that have got strategic bombardment capability.
Yeah.
You're talking about an army that commands a budget of 600 billion USD towards 2035 in terms of their planning. And the armies, obviously, of Wagner and versus Putin are incomparable because it's literally a small apple and the watermelon.
Yeah. I mean,
so I'm convinced that there's no comparability between Wagner and the Putin army regime. What has happened here would probably obviously scare the enemies of Putin because they are shocked that he was able to whiffle out Wagner without even lifting a hand.
Yeah. What I did want to ask is, nobody knows what happens in Putin's mind, but there is a sense that he's not going to let this go. I mean, I was watching a documentary, interestingly, about Putin, and one of the interesting things that he said in that particular interview, when asked, if he's a forgiving man, does he forgive? He said, I do forgive, but one thing that I don't do is forget, and I don't forgive any sort of betrayal. And essentially, he would be seeing this as a betrayal, wouldn't he? So he's not going to let this go, is he?
No, of course. I mean, Putin has arrived where he is today because he understands the Machiavellian discourse of total control. He does not take kind to dissent. He does not take kind to disloyalty. Remember, Yevgeny Prigozhin is actually a former friend of Putin. And this is not just a political betrayal, it's also a personal betrayal because Wagner boss has really benefited a lot in terms of contracts that have made him rich today. And Putin is agitated and really feels that this guy must be dealt with. Of course, the question can be posed and answered. Why is it that he would have said that he was going to drop the Mutiny charges? For me, I think it was a gambit tactic to get him to withdraw out of the country first and wait to deal with him later when the situation has de-escalated inside the country.
We appreciate your insightful analysis on this issue then, that is Thato Magogodi, speaking to us. He's the managing director at the Khodiso Sichaba Foundation. We're going to take a short break. More news coming up after this. Stay with us.